Hey everybody, and welcome to the CloudCore TCG How to Play video. This is Icarus from the Discord, and I'm here today just to help out with some of the rules and to get you guys playing at home. So your starter set comes with two decks which are pre-made and balanced against each other, ready to play. And what I'm going to do is take you through the general grid, the way in which the game is set up, and some rules and tactics to kind of get you going. Now, this is a playmat which has the grid on it. The grid represents the entire game zone, and this is currently it. The grid is made up of three individualized zones: the gamma zone, the alpha zone, and the zeta zone. Now, when you're playing the CloudCore game, the way you win predominantly is by reducing your opponent's core HP to 0. So you're going to be damaging your opponent's cores with attacks from your guardians, with traps, with rifts, and the first person to hit 0 loses the game. Each zone, think of it as a lane to your opponent's core. Now, if we were to break down each one individually, they're all the same, but let's go at Gamma Zone. You have 2 upload points. Now, an upload point can contain a Guardian card or a Trap card, which are played face down and used to trick your opponent. This is mirrored your opponent's side. So a grid in its entirety has 6 upload points to your side, 6 to your opponent's side, and zone energy sections, which is where you'll put your energy cards in order to power your Guardian's attacks and their abilities. So going back to Gamma Zone, in a zone activation in your turn, you are allowed to standard upload. It's called cards to this zone. You can standard upload a Guardian card, a face down trap card, and an energy card once per turn. Now, Guardian cards are powered by energy, and they require energy of the same card to power. So, for example, this wouldn't be able to power the Shadow Hack ability. If I had a portal energy in, I could exhaust that energy in my turn to attack with Shadow Hack, dealing 10 damage to my opponent's core, or a Guardian if they were there to block the opponent's core. But we can get more into Guardian cards in a minute. Sticking with the game setup, you begin by shuffling your deck and placing it face down in your deck kind of area of the game. You can also play it like this and have your discard pile here. The game starts with you drawing 7 cards off the top of your deck. Now from there, you want a mix of energy cards, guardian cards, traps, and rifts in which to kind of begin the game. It depends on the tactics you're trying to pull. So let's get into a breakdown of each card type. Going back to the Guardian card, Sting 9. They look like quite complex pieces, but it's just a case of breaking down all the elements of the cards. On the top right is their hit points. That's easy. It's how much damage they can take before they're deleted and put in your discard pile. Next is their abilities. Now, abilities come in this slightly smaller rectangle or curved rectangle. Sting 9, for example, has the ability Code Ninja. After you make an attack, you can re-upload him to other zones, so he can bounce around the field as he attacks. Different Guardian abilities will proc off different things that happen in the game. Often it's just a case of reading the card, giving it a think what those words really will translate to in game terms, and applying that. So Guardian abilities can be really varied. Most of them don't even require energy. The ability side of things will just happen when the Guardian sees that happening on the board. Then we move down to their attacks. Now this is the main area in which you're going to win the game. Attacks require energy to power. So if we look at the Phantasy 4 Blade attack, you need 2 portal energy in this zone energy section in order to power that attack. So if I just search my deck really quickly, and I'll just place 2 portal energy down, pretending that we're a couple of turns into the game, I could then exhaust to turn sideways these 2 portal energy to pay for Phantasy 4 Blade, attacking my opponent for 70 damage. And that can attack either their core, or if they were to have Guardians blocking in upload points in the same zone, that damage would hit the Guardian. So this is why it's useful to have Guardians across all your zones, because they'll be blocking damage from opponents' Guardians and protecting your core as you yourself attack them. Now the next type of card to look at is a trap card. Boom. So here's a trap card. You know they're traps because of the symbol in the top right. It says trap card. And traps will have two things. I have a flip trigger and a trap effect. Now traps are standard uploaded face down. You as a player know what they're doing, but your opponent won't know what that trap is. So it's a good way to set up different tactical ploys to trick your opponent or play around what they're doing. Trap cards can have quite powerful effects depending on what they do and what they are. So again, it's just finding the set of traps which works for you and the strategies you want to pull. Now this is a quite simple trap card, Memory Shark Bite version 1. So first off, we look at the flip trigger when we play a trap. If an enemy guardian attacks in the zone the trap is played to, it will flip the Memory Shark Bite. Then you look at the trap effect. So the effect here is draw 2 cards. You can then reveal an energy from your hand. If you have an energy in your hand, deal 30 damage to the attacking guardian. So this is a simple way to slightly refill your hand with more cards. And if there were energy in it, let's pretend I pulled a core energy out, I could then show it to my opponent for a little damage boost on top of more cards coming to my hand. Different traps will behave in different ways like that. If we take the mass shield wall, for example, the flip trigger here is an opponent guardian attacks. So if I had played mass shield wall in Gamma Zone, and my opponent's guardian attacks with a dual monitor, I can flip this trap in response, which cancels all guardian attacks for the rest of this zone's activation. So the mass shield wall effectively blankets the zone in a dulling field for that zone activation for that turn. Now, the next card type are Rift cards. Now, Rift cards are interesting because they don't require an upload point to be played. They kind of, you play them above the field. They do their effect and then they immediately go to the discard pile. So for example, Energy Station. If I was to play this Rift, I could search my deck for any energy card and special upload it to a zone. So a special upload gets around the rule of only one standard upload of each type per turn. For example, I couldn't standard upload 5 energy cards from my hand to the same zone in one turn, You can only do 1 a turn, but with the Energy Station, this Rift in particular, I could search for another one and put it into that zone, speeding up my zone powering. And Rifts can do all types of things, like they will instantly help you out and then they'll go to the bin. For example, Cloud Beat 2.0 lets you draw 3 cards from the top of your deck and then discard 1 card that you don't want. So it allows you to filter through your deck and find more cards. The Rift, Lightning Rift, or wherever the hell it went in my pile of cards, deal 20 damage to any target, then draw a card. So these are things that you can just play around the field. They're not restricted by zones and zone activations. You can play them to anything depending on what they say, and they'll help you speed up your tactics, they'll help you find more cards, they'll help you do damage. Again, much like traps, they're really varied in what they can help accomplish in your strategy. Now, obviously, we've covered energy as the 4th basic card type, and there are special energy cards on top of these basic energy cards. A basic energy is a single color energy, so this core energy can be used to pay for core guardian attacks. There's also some special energy in the starter set, so Nectar Orbiting Core is an example of this, and this could be either core or Nectar energy, which allows you to have guardians played across zone and be able to power them and know that you can power their attacks. For example, you wouldn't really want a Tacit Gleam sat in a zone with only core energy. His Nectar basis, wouldn't let him utilize this type of energy. So that's why this type of energy is useful, because this could either be core or be Nectar, and then you could look at having different colors of guardians in your zones. So they're the 4 basic card types: guardian types, traps, rifts, and energy. And when building a deck and when playing, you want a good mix of these card types in order to build a balanced strategy. Now, the final kind of special type of card that you get in the deck is Guardian Evos. Now, if you have a Guardian pre-uploaded into your upload point, you can do an Evo check, which is the cost in the top left corner here. For example, Tacit Gleam needs 3 Nectar energy in order to be evolved to Tacit Gleam Evo. That doesn't mean you need to exhaust the energy, like when you pay for an attack. It just means that energy needs to exist in the zone. So if my turn begins and my gamma zone looks like this, I can activate my gamma zone, check for the 3 energy in order to evolve classic Gloom, and exhaust that 3 energy to play magnetic north maybe, and zone strike and just do a bunch of damage, or I can just upload them to gain more HP, things like that. So Evos represent a more powerful level your Guardians can reach, as long as you meet that Evo limit of energy in that zone. So here's a combat example in Zeta Zone. This might be turn 1 or 2 or 3 of the game, where my opponent's got a Tacit Gleam. Maybe they've used that energy to attack a turn before and destroyed one of my Guardians, and I've got a Bing down with 1 portal energy in the zone. Now I move to activate Zeta Zone, and let's say I don't have any traps in my hand, I don't have any energy in my hand, but I do have a Rift. So I'm going to move to combat in this zone, and I'm going to play a Rift Portal Blader. So the next attack from a Portal type Guardian, which is obviously Big, he's a Portal type, does plus 50 damage and costs 1 portal energy less to power. So I'm going to use my Nazin attack, which would normally cost 2 portal energy, but because of Portal Blader, it only costs 1. So I can exhaust my portal energy for Nazin, which is 50 damage plus 50 from the Portal Blader. So the Portal Blader would then go to my discard pile, and my 50 damage attack would become 100 damage on Tacit Gleam. That's not quite enough to finish him off, but let's say there's another Rift in my hand after all this attack sequence is complete. I decide to play a second Rift, just Lightning Rift. I can deal 20 damage to any target and then draw a card. Now a target can be whatever you want. It can be your opponent, it can be your opponent's core, or it can be one of their Guardians across the entire field. And I'm going to target Tacit Gleam with this attack, or with this Rift. So that's another 20 damage on Tacit Gleam, which meets his HP amount, so that means he gets deleted, he's destroyed. And that Lightning Rift will then go to my discard pile as well. So that would represent the end of this zone activation. You can only attack once with a Guardian in a zone. So if I had a second Guardian and more energy, I could then attack with them as well. But Bing has now attacked in this zone, he can't attack again in this zone. So with our Guardian cards, there's also a couple of subtypes that we need to keep an eye out for. After their HP, their abilities, their attacks, we have this little bar down the bottom, which is like supplementary info. Now it's got the type of Guardian here, if you're not really sure. Most of the time it'll be quite self-evident with the colour scheme. We know purple is Nectar, blue is Core, but you can always check this a little bit to see. The other thing to deal with sometimes is weakness, advantage, and resistance, and that'll be displayed here. Now this is a more complex optional rule that adds a little bit of a rock, paper, scissors element to how Guardians interact. It will be in some tournament formats, but not most, so for the most part you can ignore this unless it's specifically stated in the rules that this is part of that game format. And lastly, we have our bot Guardians. Now most Guardians or Guardian Evos will be displayed up here. Bots are slightly different in the way that you don't take core feedback when they're destroyed. So if a Guardian is deleted, normally you take 10 damage to your core on top of anything else as they die as core feedback. Bots, they're a bit more disposable and they're a little bit less complex beings than Guardians are. So when they are deleted, you don't have to worry about core feedback. So if it says bot up here, that's another rule to remember in your head.